Well, hey everyone. Welcome to Celebration Bar Review. My name is Jackson Mumey. I'm glad to have you with me. Today, this message is designed to be watched at a little more than 4 months until your bar exam, so somewhere between 120 and 127 days to the test. And it's a good time if you're just beginning to start thinking about the bar exam that's coming up for you to be really focused and starting to lock in just a little bit. This is a good time to get serious. 120 days will be the point at which we kick off in our course a fairly intense 4-month workout leading up to the exam. But right now we're sort of on the edge of that. And because we're on the periphery of what's going to be coming along, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes in this video to talk about where you might want to be in your preparations at this point in time. Now, most people will be just starting out or starting to think about the exam at this point. If you've already registered for a course, well, you've probably already got your materials. If you're in our course, you definitely have the materials. But if you haven't reached that point yet, maybe you're just starting to think about the exam and starting to think about what you would have to do and rearranging your schedule and sort of giving the logistics a little bit of practice just to see what it looks like. Now, there are a couple of groups of people for whom this is an absolute starting date, I think, and probably a pretty good cutoff. One group would be foreign trained attorneys. If English is not your first language, and I think if you've got any discomfort with English, you need to give yourself at a minimum 4 months of study time. So this is probably the cutoff date for you if you're planning to take the upcoming exam. If you wait much beyond this 4-month date, you're probably looking at delaying till the next bar exam to give yourself a little bit more time just to get through the assignments, to be comfortable with the language, and to do the studies that you need to do. Now, don't misunderstand. I have a great deal of respect for people who are doing this exam in a language that's not their first or their primary comfort language. I frankly cannot imagine trying to take a high-stakes test in a foreign country in another language. It completely blows my mind. So I have all the respect in the world for people who are doing this. Now, the great news is that over the years, we've had tremendous success with foreign-trained attorneys. But I do know from working with hundreds and hundreds of foreign attorneys that the anxiety can really build up. And one of the primary determinants of that is how much time you give yourself to study. So if you're a foreign trained attorney, at this point in time, if you're planning on taking the next bar exam, you're probably looking, in your case, at somewhere between 25 to 40 hours a week of study. Any later than this, I'm not even sure that you should be taking the exam. So this is pretty much a decision point. Now, I know that some of you will be waiting to find out whether or not your credentials are approved for the exam. Unfortunately, you cannot wait until that decision's made to begin your studies for that same exam. So I would say that you're better off starting to study now, work on the credentials. You'll get those approved typically right before the exam. And if for some reason they're not approved, then you're simply deferring over to the next test date. So I think either way, you're in pretty good shape with that. Now, the other group that I typically find wants to get an early start and for whom this is a good time to begin are the people that you would think of as a type A personality, whether they're coming out of law school or in work. These are people who feel like they have to do everything and they want to do it multiple times and they want to do it perfectly. I empathize and I understand the reasoning behind that. I would say, however, that in general, trying to do a course multiple times, or as some people try to do, taking multiple courses, generally is not very productive. It doesn't reduce reduce the fail rate or increase the pass rate in my experience. In fact, I don't see any change at all when people use that strategy that's a positive change. If you're working while you study, then we've designed a course that's just right for you because you can start now at this 4-month period and still be able to get your studies in 15 to 20 hours a week. So even if you're someone that feels like you've really got to get at it, this is the time to start and you can still manage work, family, and other responsibilities that you might have. Now, if you're ready to begin your studies now, and you're thinking that your plan is to spend 40 or 50 hours a week for the next 4 months, I would say that that's probably too much. You don't need to do that. In our experience, 15 to 20 hours a week for a 4-month period is sufficient to prepare for the exam. Doing more than that, I think, is counterproductive. And of course, as you get closer to the exam, your experience and our expectation is that you will bump your hours up slightly, but we would not expect to see you ever at something more than 30 hours a week if you begin now. So if you're in that group, I think this is a good time to start, but I think you can manage it. Now, there's also a third group of people, and those are the folks that are waiting for their bar results from the last bar exam. And typically at 127 days out, you have not gotten your results. They're generally not released at this point. So there's certainly this anxiousness about, should I start or should I wait until I get my results and then start? Well, truthfully, this is a very individualized decision. Some people know for a fact that they failed. You didn't write a full essay, or you missed a performance test, or you left unanswered questions on the multistate. If that's your circumstance, then yes, I think you absolutely should begin now anticipating that you have to retake the exam. In the happy event that you pass the bar exam, well, that's good. You've invested a little bit more to study, but that's not the worst thing that could have happened to you. On the other hand, if you don't pass, then you've not boxed yourself in with too short a study frame to prepare for the next exam. So I think that's one of the things you really want to do. And if you're struggling with that in your circumstance, I would invite you to contact me and we can talk about it. There is a link on this page where you can connect with me by phone or email or schedule a conference, and I would invite you to do any of those three things, and I'd be glad to meet with you and talk to you about your particular circumstances. And then, of course, there are those people who've taken the bar exam previously, gotten their results from that previous test, and already knew that they fail. If you're a bar repeater, if you're in that situation, when should you start? And the answer for you is unequivocal. Right now. You need to begin as soon as possible. You want to get underway. You want to start to build some confidence, start building some new habits about how to study. And the sooner you begin, the better off you'll be. It's not necessarily that we're going to do more work in this situation, but it's really a matter of pacing the work out. And it's also about getting rid of some of those internal mental demons that you might have. You know, the ones that sit on your shoulder and tell you that because you failed, you're a failure. That's certainly not true, but it's hard to get rid of it until you're moving forward to something else. So I would say that if you're in that circumstance where you are repeating the bar from a previous exam, not just the last bar exam, then you absolutely want to get started right now. And you'll feel a lot better once you get underway and start to see what you're capable of doing. In general, this is the time when I really like to see people getting started, getting underway, and really starting to move with their studies. This is the window, I think, that provides the most amount of time in order to provide you with the feedback and the conferencing, and certainly just the opportunity to register for the personal or premium mentoring courses, because these fill up pretty early on. So this is the time when you really want to get underway and be doing the work. Now, I would say that as we go forward, we will be doing these messages on a fairly regular basis, whether you're registered in our course or not, just to give you some tips and strategies and ways to deal with the bar exam. I hope you'll find them helpful, and I encourage you to check them out. But I would say that if you're one of those people who's trying to decide whether or not this is the right approach to take, or even whether or not you should take the exam, it's been my experience that most bar takers are neither stupid nor lazy. The problem is really on the other end. Most of the people that take the bar exam overdo. They overwork, they overstudy, they overthink, they overanalyze, and in many cases they're overanxious. So part of what we really want to do is help you get some balance in your life. Be able to manage your work, your life, your family, your community, and your bar study all at once. And it is possible you can do it and still pass the bar exam. But one of the keys is getting started right now. And so that's what I really want to encourage you to do at this point. 4 months from now, really a long time in bar exam world. It's a really, really long time. But this is the time to begin. So I encourage you to get underway, get started. And if you're questioning whether or not you should be doing that, or really just want to know more about how we can prepare you, I invite you to check out the link on this page for our free masterclass, How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. This is a look at the powerful 4 steps that will guarantee that you pass the bar. We've had thousands of people go through this course, and it's been life-changing for many of them. And I invite you to join us. You'll see a link where you can click and claim your free seat. We do the live webinar on Thursdays, and you can schedule an on-demand version at your own convenience if that works better for you. In any event, this is the time to start making some decisions. So I encourage you to set some goals, start preparing yourself to study, and set aside. Look at your schedule and see if you can set aside 10, 15, 20 hours a week. If you can do that, then I think you're going to be just fine. So I hope this is helpful. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and we'll be back to you soon with the next message in our series.